Hey, welcome back to Driven Channel, and I'm here very excited to have you. You know, like you started your company on your own, Eminent Energy, right? And it's a solar company. And so, before we get started, Anthony, can you tell us like who is Anthony? Like, how was your beginning in solar? Because I know solar has had a big change that happened recently. Like I know a lot of solar companies that were doing really well, and then like you said, we were talking about this before we started. They went out of business, and some of them stayed in business. So how did you manage to go through the change? How are you guys winning right now? And what exactly happened in the solar industry in the last few years?
Yeah, so happy to be here, man. Appreciate it. I started in the solar industry probably about 7 years ago. So
You were 30.
hey, you're good at math. Yeah. I just had a birthday.
I'm a mortgage guy, so I have to be.
Yeah. So I was in the Navy, did 5 years in the Navy as a corpsman, a medic. Got out of the Navy, was driving Lyft and Uber. And one of my Marine friends told me, hey, I'm getting solar installed on my house. And my conception of solar was it's just for rich people. He was telling me it's actually free. It's not costing anything. He referred me to the manager who set him up for his house. I had an interview, and I'm an introvert. So I'm quiet. I don't like crowds. And back then I had massive amounts of social anxiety. So they told me, hey, this is the job. This is what you have to do. You have to go door to door. This is what you could make. And I had a job offer at that time with UCSD, working at a hospital in San Diego. It was like 35 bucks an hour. All my friends and family, I told them, hey, the solar gig, this is what it looks like, or I can work with the state of California. Everybody said, hey, take the state job. I grew up on welfare Section 8. My son at that time was still a baby. And I said, I don't want him to live the way I did. So I took the solar job, and that was with Vivint Solar. They were purchased since then. But my first year going door to door with no prior sales experience, I took home $430,000. So
This was what year?
2018.
So that this is with Vivint?
Vivint, yep, Vivint Solar. And so these,
I remember them, yeah, because I remember them.
yeah, so they do alarms still. They do home security or something like that. But Sunrun purchased Vivint a few years ago. But that was my first year. That was my first introduction to sales. And it was hard. I mean, we're going door to door. They told me, hey, if you want to be successful, you got to work from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., 6 days a week, because that's when homeowners are home. I was broke. I was living in the worst place in San Diego. I worked from 9 in the morning to 8 p.m., 6 days a week. I didn't work on Sundays. And I took home the first 12 months, $35,000. So that was my introduction into sales and solar. And then I started my own company probably about 3 years ago. So I own Eminent Energy. We're a sales organization. We're a dealership. We're a broker. We're partnered with every billion-dollar finance company. So we don't really lose deals because we have access to everything. But kind of the last part of your question. So the state of California passed a new law called Net Metering 3.0, which requires every residential house to get a battery. So in the last 12 months, probably over 150 construction or installation companies have gone bankrupt because they had cash flow issues. So, and I've been offered probably 4 or 5 times to be purchased by an installation company, and I always said no, because then I would be tied down to their brand, their product, and I could only sell that. Mm-hmm. So thankfully, I never sold out, and it's been, it hasn't been easy. There's been about a 12-month transition period, but now the pricing for the equipment, the batteries is pretty steady. So, I mean, we're doing okay.
Do you know how much Vivint sold for?
No clue. But their stock, I mean, it skyrocketed. Well, their stock didn't. Sunrun stock did once they purchased them. Recently, you heard of SunPower. I mean, SunPower was the largest residential solar company. All the new houses that you guys have sold typically would come with SunPower. And they were in business like 45 years. This year they went bankrupt.
After 45 years?
Yeah.
Why?
I think they had a massive amount of cash flow issues as well. So yeah, there's a lot shaking up in the solar industry. And I guess, I mean, myself being a sales organization, it doesn't really affect me, because we have multiple different partnerships. I probably lost like 400, 600,000 because some of these installation companies owed me money when they went bankrupt, and obviously nobody gets paid when a company goes down. But yeah, I think if you guys want to get into the sales industry, definitely check out solar.
So you were with Vivint, and then after that, that's when you started your own company.
Yeah, there's actually...
But you said 3 years ago is when you started your own?
Yep. So I left. So what happened was I started with Vivint. I was there a couple years. And it's kind of like a culture thing, right? Like, you're going to talk bad about the competition, the enemy. You have to. It sells. So the leadership and the culture there, Sunrun was the number one competitor. So they talked, trash about them immensely. And then when they announced that they were going to be purchased by Sunrun, it was a great thing. And I was a little confused. I'm like, you just spent 2 years telling me they're the worst company, and what do you mean it's a great thing? So, and I mean, there was some drama in the office. I won't get into that. There was some leadership and favoritism stuff going on within that company. So I compared the commission structure with working directly with Sunrun, that company, versus working with a broker. And the commission difference was like 200 to 300%. Meaning, if I sold a deal that was going to pay me $5,000, if I sold that same deal with the competitor, I would make $15,000. So I left and I started working with a broker, a dealer.
So 3 times more, you would make 3 times more.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's absolutely crazy. And it's the same product. It's literally, I left Sunrun and I can go sell Sunrun with a third-party installation company and get paid way more. So I went to go work with a small dealership or broker. And I mean, you might not know this. A lot of people don't. Just in the solar industry, there's a massive amount of like scam and theft, especially by some of these owners of these companies. And there's very little regulation, or, I mean, like, they'll just blatantly, this is what happened to me. I joined that company. I built the office up to like 35 sales reps. The owner lived in Texas. I was recruiting, training, running, hiring, doing everything. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm not even getting paid more than anybody else here, which is okay. I'm not crazy demanding anything. But I started having a conversation with another dealership, and the owner of the current place I was at found out about it, and he removed all my access immediately, and he kept all my commission. So I went to the new place, and kind of same situation, similar situation. I was running the organization, recruiting people, training people, running the boot camps, onboarding. And then the owners of the company came out and said, hey, we're completely revamping the commission structure. And I compared, and I had people actually flying from across the country to come work with me there. And, the commission was essentially decreasing 30 to 40%. So it wasn't for our benefit. So at that point, I was like, man, what is this? And I decided to make my own company. So I I've never stolen from anybody. I've never lied, cheated, stolen. Anytime I ever lose somebody, it's because they typically can't work in the sales industry. They got to go back to a 9 to 5, or they got issues that's not good for our team, and I have to fire them. So, yeah.
So when you started the business, what challenges did you go through? Because you said it hasn't been easy, right? So and I mean I know from experience, over a decade as a business owner, and 2 decades as, if you count self-employed, working for a company, relying on sales. If you don't sell, you don't get paid. But we've been in business for 13 years, so we've been through everything that you can imagine. So for you, in the last 3 years as a business owner, where all the responsibility is yours, what have you been through, and what have you learned from being an owner now versus when you work for other companies?
Yeah. So the most challenging thing is just consistently recruiting. Because I mean, like I said, I literally have interviewed, onboarded, recruited hundreds of people. Right.
So a lot have left.
Yeah. Yeah. So the issue is, right, one of my guys, Juan, he's been with me for a few years. He purchased his first home this year. Pretty bad time to purchase a home in California, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And he purchased his first home last month. He was paid $45,000-$50,000. So he shares that story with people, and they're like, their eyes will light up. Oh my gosh, you can make how much money? And then reality sets in really quick, and they get kicked in the face when they realize you got to go knock on doors for 8 hours a day, and you're dealing with just a massive amount of rejection. Most individuals, I mean, the reality is in society, we're an instant gratification society today.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch an entire season of, Game of Thrones or whatever's out immediately and instantly. Order something, it'll be delivered today. You don't have any food, you can get it delivered right now. So when I hire these people and they don't have the mentality, the mindset, or the grit to stick with something more than a week, they quit, which is fine, because that's just job security for the ones who actually are going to go out there and hustle no matter what. So that's the hardest part, is spending so much time recruiting people, investing time and energy into them, and then they leave because they can't cut it, which is just, we have all the upside as business owners, but then that's probably one of the hardest things to deal with that. So I'm structuring something, kind of simplifying the onboarding process. When people come work with me, it'll be more streamlined, less off of my plate, and they can log in and get all the training that they need.
Yeah. So right now you have how many people that are selling for you?
We got about 18 people right now. Just actually hired like 4 new people.
And they're all in California?
All in California. Yep. I went out to Texas. So when this thing happened with California, a lot of the people I know who have been in solar for, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 years, they fled California. They went to go work in Texas, Connecticut. I stayed here. But early this year, January, I went to Texas to try to set up a shop over there, but it's just a completely different market. Out there, people are paying $500 a month for power.
I'm our Preciado. If you like what you're watching and you want to learn from an entrepreneur that built 8 companies and makes over $30 million a year, text me at 213-277-6208 and let's make it happen.
So what's your vision for the company? Are you planning on just staying in California, or are you planning on eventually, once you get to a certain number of sales reps here and cities, are you thinking about expanding to other states? Because I know there's other states that are pretty good for solar.
Yeah. My goal is, so the reason I started this is to actually give people an opportunity to change their life. Like I mean, I grew up literally, welfare, Section 8. I was given to a foster family when I was 9 years old, dropped out of high school when I was 17, got arrested as a juvenile. I didn't have anything. And if it wasn't for direct sales or the solar industry, I mean, I have a bachelor's degree. I have great leadership skills and knowledge from the Navy. But if I wasn't in the sales industry, I'd probably be, I would be struggling like a lot of people are. A lot of people are watching right now. They're in a situation where they're in a cubicle. They're praying. They hate their job. They don't know that there's something else out there. And hopefully this podcast finds them. And I don't, you can't say, well, sales isn't for everybody, right? I was an introvert. I couldn't talk in front of more than 2 people without having a freaking panic attack.
Yeah.
So if I can overcome that, which is a decision, right? You're either going to overcome it and it's going to be hard, or you're going to stay at your 9 to 5 and that's going to be even harder. So my vision or my goal is to actually give people the platform, the blueprint, and the opportunity so that they can make 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 a year, and then give them access to build their own team with me.
So let's touch more on that. Like I know there's a lot of people here watching, and you'll see a lot of young people. And solar is mostly for men, right? Or do you have some girls that do solar?
No, it's actually easier for women.
Really?
Oh my God.
So you have women sales reps?
Yeah. So it's
what is the ratio though? Like how many?
Oh, it's
how
like
many women?
1 to 4. It's very low. Women is very low, but
I think because they don't like the door knocking part.
No, they get harassed. There's obviously douchebag men who are going to make comments or whatever. But the reality is, right? Like I'm not a supermodel. I'm a pretty big guy. I have a beard, and I'm knocking on a door, and there's a female with nobody home. I've had doors open, and they're like, "My husband's not here. I'm scared. I'm not going to talk to you." Okay, cool. But if I take a female out with me, a new person, or they're training with me, or just, I mean, at this point, if you're in the solar industry, just pay your sister to go with you, because it de-escalates any tension, and they're more willing to talk to you. But I would say it's a lot simpler for women because they're less of a threat.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I heard that before. So let's say, so you would go, a woman should go with a man.
I mean,
what if you're a woman and you just want to go alone?
100% go alone. I've had one of my female reps. Again, not the smartest, not the most street smart person.
Yeah.
No disrespect. Great person. But she called me, and it was a scary situation. I was at my place, and she called me terrified. And she had gotten in a house, and she got locked in the house with a crazy woman. And I had to call the cops. And it was a scary situation.
Yeah.
But I mean, zero street smarts. Like, she got out of the woman's house and she didn't run. She actually went back in the house. So, but if you're smart and you don't put yourself in a crazy situation, you don't need to go in someone's house. Just stand outside, talk to them. There's no problem with that at all. Yeah. Don't go knock in the ghetto. Like, if there's crackheads and police helicopters flying around, and don't knock in that area. Middle income.
I was just like thinking, imagine, and like for any men watching this, like, right, let's say you get a door knock, and let's just say, like, I'm just being a little bit funny right now, but you see a really attractive woman, and it's I can see the difference versus, like you said, somebody with a beard, tall guy, big guy. How the man's gonna react to that?
100%.
It's like, it could go a lot of different ways, but I get the point now. if you are a high school, you just got out of high school and you're 18, 19, and you want to get into sales in solar, can you do that? Do you require any sort of training? What is the whole, how does it look like when you're hiring people?
Yeah. So, well, specifically, we're here in California. In California, you got to get what's called a home improvement sales license, and there's no test for that. California, of course, they want their money for everything. So I think it's like $250, $300 for the application, the background check, and that's it. We onboard people, put them through a boot camp for a few hours, teach them A through Z regarding solar, give them the pitch, and then we take them shadowing. So they follow with us for 2-3 days, and that's it. So the best people. So what I did when I first started, I found the top 2 people that are earning very, very high amounts of money in the office. I shadowed with each one of them, and I said, you know what? I don't like that guy. I think he's too fake. I like this other guy. And all I did was replicate exactly what he said. When I was walking, I'd walk with a limp. I would literally try to replicate everything he did because he's successful. He's doing it. I'm going to do exactly what he's doing. And I got to a point where they offered me a management position, and that's it. That's all you have to do in sales. Find a good company that they're winning, find the best person in there, and then replicate what they're doing. But the issue is most people, they get emotional. They get in a fight with their girlfriend. Their back hurts a little bit. So they create these excuses where they justify not doing what they said they're going to do and showing up and being consistent. And so, I mean, if you're literally, if you don't even know anything and you're walking for 8 hours and knocking on doors and saying, hey, the utility company is horrible, we'll save you 50%, you'll get deals. Our pitch is very refined. But the reason why people aren't successful is because they quit. They can't wait.
Yeah. So the people that you train, is it you training them? They go on the field with you, or they go on the field with like one of the top producers?
So right now I live in San Diego, and I have another property in about 5 hours north of San Diego. So the 4 people that I onboarded this week, they're going up to the house up there. They'll knock up there. I'll take them out for probably half a day, and then I'll have them shadow with 1 or 2 of the other top guys so that it gives them the chance to see whose style that they like. I don't want to say that I'm the best. I'm definitely not the best. There's going to be something that they can pick up from one of my guys who's been doing it for 1 or 2 years. So I want to give them a chance to get feedback and look at other people's styles as well. But typically, you just have to shadow for 2 days, and then you're going to have to sit down and memorize the pitch yourself, and that's it. You don't have to wait till you get licensed. They would work under my license when they get started. I just hired a new guy in Modesto. I didn't even know where Modesto, California was. He hit me up on Instagram, and we started talking. He said he started working with a solar company, and he got onboarded with me. And December 2nd, he got his first paycheck for $10,500. I closed his deal via Zoom, and now he's out there. He's going to start building up his own team in that area. So
how does that work? He's in Modesto. I have an office over there too. But in Modesto, you found him on Instagram, and you closed the deal via Zoom. So was it a client that he found over there, and then he told you, hey, you know what, Anthony, I need your help closing this deal, and then you closed it for him on the Zoom? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So what I do is I don't tell somebody, hey, you join my company, you're gonna have to close your first 10 deals with me. Kind of talking earlier about Sunrun. When Sunrun hires a new person, the new person's required to do a 50-50 commission split for the first 10 deals. I think that's like theft. That's crazy, because finding a deal is extremely hard. You're working you're freaking knocking on doors, you're getting rejected. What I do with our company is I say, hey, listen, I don't want to close your deals. It's a waste of my time. I'd rather go spend time with my kids. I want to train you to be self-sufficient. I want you to close your own deals. I'm willing to close your first 1, 2, 3 deals. And hopefully after seeing 2 or 3 deals, you can close your own deals. And then we do a 70-30 commission split. So they get 70% of the commission, the lion's share, because they found the deal. Whoever closes it keeps 30%. So that's what we have worked out right now. And it works pretty good.
So this deal, he made $10,000.
That was set. So the total commission's like 11,800. He has to wait for the last $1,000 after the customer gets permission to turn the system on, which is like 2-3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
But I took 30% of that deal. So the deal would have been worth, I'm bad at math, high school dropout, 14,500 or something for his first deal. And I asked him too, last year for the whole year, he made like 22,000 for the whole year working side jobs, 22,000 for the whole year.
Yeah.
So getting into direct sales, or, it's there's nothing smarter, because you'll never be hungry. Like you said in the beginning, if you're willing to work, you're always going to have a paycheck.
Yeah. So let's just say a typical top producer, how many deals can they close in a month?
The reality is, man, people are lazy. So it's, dude, man, it's just, they settle. So I'm sure right? Money does 2 things. When you give somebody money, they're either going to be like, holy shit, I made $10,000 this month. Are you freaking kidding me? And they're going to go 20 times harder. They're going to put more time in personal development, and they're going to ask you to train. When I first started, a year and a half into it, I would ask, hey, can you take me shadowing so I can see if you changed anything? My first 60 days, I closed 29 deals by myself with nobody assisting me. Back in the day, the managers were not willing to go close a deal because there was no commission split for them. So if they had to drive an hour one way to my appointment and sit in the appointment for an hour and then drive an hour back to the area, they're losing money. So I'd never had anybody sit with me and close a deal. It was all training. Like, hey, we do training twice a week today. And that's what we had. We did training. They say, hey, Anthony, you need to say this, this, this. You need to click on this, send the credit check, sign the documents. And I took the notes and I went and closed the deals by myself. Some of them canceled because obviously I didn't know how to overcome all the objections, but the product sells itself. So my first 60 days, I closed 29 deals. And that's working quite a bit of hours, but it's obviously worth it.
So it's like closing a deal every other day.
Yep. Yeah, my best month so far in the solar industry, personal production, my best month was 230,000. It was like 18 installs. Yeah. And that's all delayed gratification. Some of those installs I closed 2 months ago. They needed a roof upgrade, an electric panel upgrade. But that's all sales is these little micro conversations. You hand somebody your business card, you talk to them, something changes in their life, and then they hit you up 6 months later. But if you're not consistently having those conversations with people, then that delayed gratification is not going to come to fruition. So that's the issue. Most people, they get a $10,000 paycheck and they're not used to making that kind of money. So they take their foot off the gas and then they have to start all over. And the hardest thing to keep in anything is momentum.
Yeah.
So
when you made the 60 days, your first 60 days, you said you closed 29 deals, right?
Yeah.
So is that equivalent to like $290,000 in your pocket?
No, that was a while ago. The commissions were less, which is incredible.
I'm Albert Preciado. If you like what you're watching and you want to learn from an entrepreneur that built 8 companies and makes over $30 million a year, text me at 213-277-6208 and let's make it happen.
I mean, I think my first install paid me $3,400. So back back then the commission structure was completely different, right? I was working with a company that if I was still working with them today, I'd make 300% more. So the commission was way less. And then how they paid, which I actually liked how they paid. I think it was like 60% commission up front, 40% residual over a year and a half, which I loved. Because when I left, I had like 23,000 residual a month. But today on average, you're talking about 10,000 per deal on average. You'll have some that are 3, you'll have some that are 18. On average, you're making 10,000. So that, that could pay you 290,000. So, well, we're in a very competitive field.
Yeah. So why was it different before though? Why were the commissions different?
Well, they're still different. I was working with the wrong company.
Oh, it's because of the company.
Yeah. And then the other thing that has changed, when I first got into solar, San Diego Gas and Electric was charging 21 cents on average per kilowatt hour. And I was selling deals at 17 cents. So we were saving people very little, but it made sense. Today, San Diego Gas and Electric Company customers are paying 55 cents per kilowatt hour on average. So we're selling them a power purchase agreement. And by the way, we don't sell it. There's no loan, there's no debt, there's no lease, there's no lien, there's no out-of-pocket costs. We don't need any money from the customer. We're saying, hey, if your home's a good candidate, if you own the property, if your credit's 650 and above, if you have a good roof, we'll install the solar and equipment and battery. Instead of you paying $400 a month to the utility company, you can pay $200 a month to the solar provider.
Yeah.
So what's changed is the rates have increased with the utility company, allowing us to sell higher. And I mean, it's just, I think honestly, I think the commission is going to change. Some sort of federal regulation has to take place because, right, for the mortgage industry, you guys, I don't know if you guys have always had to show your commission or if that was a recent change.
That was a recent change. Well, not recent, but it was a change not too long ago.
Yeah,
The loan docs will say like $18,000 fee or $15,000 fee, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. So I mean, imagine
before you could hide it.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys are personally. I think that realtors work way harder than I do. Right? You have to drive people around the open houses. You're working with someone for 3 months, and they're like, "Hey, you know what? Never mind. I don't want to buy a house. My uncle told me it's bad." With solar, we're spending an hour total with the client. And I have one of my guys, it's like a unicorn. It's not all the time, but he has a deal that's $55,000 commission. And we're saving the person probably like 45%, but it's a giant house. Their usage is incredibly high. But I think eventually in the future, there's going to be regulation where there's caps on commission or something. Because like I said in the beginning, there's a lot of greedy people that don't care. They just want to make as much money as possible, even if it's at the detriment of the person who's trusting them. So I think that's the biggest thing that sets one of the things that I like to, kind of take pride in.
Yeah.
Is I'm not trying to make $10,000. I don't care about the commission. What I focus on is giving that person, even if I have to make $500 on the deal, I want to give them the best pricing, product, and experience so that I can leverage their network for the next 5 or 10 years. I get people calling me from 4, 5, 6 years ago. Hey, Anthony, are you still doing solar? I have a referral for you. And so that's kind of, what's going on.
So how do you determine the commission? Like, let's say if I'm a solar guy and I have a deal that I'm working on and it's a big house. So, the commission is 55,000, right? So can I lower that? Can I up it?
100%. So in the solar industry, the rep is essentially picking the pricing that we're giving the customer. So on these power purchase agreements, or they're called PPAs, I mean, it's crazy if you think about it, right? So how it works is, I'm going to use Sunrun as an example. They're the most well-known. Sunrun is getting the customer to sign a 25-year contract that says, hey, we're going to install solar on your roof. You are going to pay us for power for 25 years, and that's going to increase every year 3.5%, right? So if you start them off at $200 monthly payment with a 3.5% annual escalator, at the end of 25 years, they're paying around $450, right? They might be paying $450 right now with the utility company. But if you look at, if we break, you're good at math. If you break down the numbers and the math, right? The solar equipment, it's really cheap. If you buy 15 panels from the distributor, you might pay $3,500. The install crew, you might pay another $2,500. The permits, the engineering, another $1,500. But the customer signing a contract with the company that's going to cost the customer $140,000 over 25 years. So it's an incredible business model that they have, and it's a win-win for both parties, because if the customer didn't do anything, if they stayed with the utility company, SDG&E has increased like 117% the last 7 years. Mm-hmm. So if they didn't do anything, they would pay the utility company like $340,000 over 25 years. So it's a win-win, right? The consumer's winning. The finance company gets a freaking 70% tax credit. So on all the equipment that they're paying for, they get a write-off because they're a business, and then they're getting that consumer locked in as a customer for 25 years. That's why the commissions are so high, because they know that, oh, this contract's going to pay me $240,000. We'll go ahead and pay you $30,000. So it's pretty good.
The client, does the client see the fee that they're paying?
They do, yeah. So they
and the fee is higher, depending on how much the monthly payment is, right?
Yeah, 100%. So if it's a small system or a bigger system, they get, I think you guys have it too in real estate, they get a truth in lending document.
Yeah.
And that truth in lending document says, hey, the total cost of the equipment that you're getting on your property for 25 years is $95,000. But that number isn't, they're not getting a loan for it, so it doesn't impact their DTI.
Yeah.
Whereas if they were to buy solar, it's a nightmare to sell your house. I'm sure you guys have come into a lot of issues with that. With this option, if they want to sell their house, there's a UCC filing. That's removed by the finance company, and then it's put back in place once you guys close escrow. And the new homeowner's automatically qualified to take over the solar system.
Yeah.
So it's pretty streamlined. And we sell solar too. I mean, I just had a pretty big system installed. The guy paid cash. We finance stuff too.
He paid you cash?
Yeah.
Like cash, paper cash?
Yeah. It was probably $90,000 cash.
So you brought $90,000 cash?
He paid $90,000 cash. But again, so.
What do you use the cash for?
What's that?
What do you use the cash for?
No, I didn't get it. Oh. So I sold it to him for $90,000.
Yeah.
But the construction company takes that money. The contractor, the install company takes that money, and then they're going to give me my commission for closing the deal, right? So I think my commission on that was like $5,000. So if you're, I would imagine for real estate, it's the same, right? Cash, you're going to be able to get the deal quicker. Yeah. It's more competition. Same thing in the solar industry. It's very competitive for cash deals. But that dude, I mean, he had the Ferrari in the garage, beach in Coronado, a house right on the beach in Coronado. He had probably a really big tax liability. So he was looking for that 30% federal credit for the purchasing solar. So
no, I get what you're saying. So when you buy cash, when you buy real estate cash, you go through escrow. So I'm sure you have a few properties.
Not a few, just one.
So you've been through escrow though. You know how that works. Yeah. So you go to escrow and they wire the cash there, and then escrow is the one that pays off whatever they have to pay off, and the deal gets closed like in a week or 2 weeks. It's quick. You don't require appraisal or none of that. So like for solar, when it's a cash deal, do they have like an escrow that holds the money and pays everybody off?
Yeah, so they have exactly like that. They have an escrow account where, I mean, pretty much it's like $1,000 deposit that the customer has to pay, and then prior to install they have to pay 80%, and then after it's completed and they get permission to turn the system on, they pay the other 20%. But that money's set aside in like some sort of a mutual account where they know that money is going to go towards paying for everything.
It's like the escrow, but for solar.
Yeah, I've personally done probably around 500 installs myself, knocking on doors, but only
500.
Yeah, only 5 have paid cash. Very few.
So 500. If you would have gotten paid 10,000 on each, it's like $5 million.
Yeah, but I'm in the beginning, right? It's I had that mindset of like, hey, I have to sell it for, 17 cents instead of 23 cents. So I was definitely blessing a lot of people in SoCal because my mindset was, oh, they're not going to do this unless I sell it for this price.
Yeah.
And I go back to some of those customers right now and they're paying 22 cents with the escalator, but they would have been paying 55 cents. So yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Let's get to the whole introvert and sales, because I'm sure a lot of people here are wondering, like, hey, you know what? It sounds tempting. Like I'm gonna call up Anthony right now. I want to be part of his company. I want to make $10,000 a deal, and I'm gonna close a deal every 2 days, or I'm gonna close a couple every week, or I don't know. But they're thinking about all the money they could make. Now, you talked about sales right now, and I know for a fact that it's easier to sell a $10,000 product than a $1,000 product. So what happens is when you have somebody that's qualified, they're gonna pay $10,000 for whatever you're selling, because they're gonna be like, you know what, $10,000, okay, it's not cheap. It must be good. It's a good product. I'm going to learn. It's going to make me better, or whatever the case is. But when you sell something for $1,000 or $500, then those people they think about it more. They're like, oh, fuck, because maybe that's all they have. So they're not really qualified buyers at a higher price. Now, the difference is that when you're a good salesperson, it's easy for you to like sell your service, because number one, you know your service and you believe in your service more than anybody. And number two is like, you know how to communicate with people. So you know how to listen more than you talk. You get all their information, their wants, what's important to them. And then you give them what they want, not what you want. So I noticed my top people, they're very good at that. Now, you said that you're an introvert. Are you still an introvert? And also, like, how did you get good in sales so that you can also help your salespeople get better in sales? Because it's easier said than done. People are watching this and they're thinking, I want to get into solar, but what if they suck in sales? What if they're introverts? Based on your experience, how did you learn sales, and how did you become an extrovert when you needed to become one?
Yeah, so I'm still an introvert.
Yeah, I can tell, because you're a little quiet.
Nah, yeah. So, you.
But I bet when you get somebody on the phone, and they're interested, and they're qualified buyers, you snap out of it and you get excited and you become an extrovert, right? At least for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's personally, I don't even view myself honestly as a salesperson.
Yeah.
I try to, and I tell every customer I sit down with, I say, hey, I'm not here to sell you something. I'm here to educate you. I don't care if you work with me. I hope you go get another bid because you're signing up for 25 years. What you're going to get with me is the best product, the best pricing. And if you need help or support, I'll be here. And I think they really appreciate just me being direct. You could always tell, right, when somebody is trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like that. So I go in there with the mindset of I'm gonna educate you with the pros and cons of every option. I'm gonna let you know why I'm showing you this option. And if you want something else, no problem. We have access. We can change it. But it was not easy. Going back to the first part of the question, bro. Like, dude, in the beginning, I was driving around probably that first year, and I had a panic attack. Have you ever had a panic attack? No?
No.
Man, it must be nice. I had a panic attack. I literally thought I was having a heart attack.
I battled heart attacks, but
Yeah.
I never had one.
Yeah. So it's not easy, right? And nothing should be easy. Nothing worth doing or achieving or having is easy. So if people are watching and they want to get into it and they're actually, an introvert as well, it's not easy. You listen to Andy Frisilla?
Yeah, I know him.
So he,
I've been to his headquarters and we did a podcast.
Yeah. So he talks about in his early, he's a world-class speaker. He gets paid quite a bit for his speaking ability on stage. And he talks about when he started his company in the beginning, he would go to the grocery store and he would have those conversations, meaningful conversations. He wouldn't go up and say, "Hey, Albert, your skin looks really nice, man. Have a good day." He would find you and he would stop you in the store and he would have a conversation with you. So that's what he did. I don't know if he calls himself an introvert, but he was bad at speaking. So that's what he did.
He stuttered a lot.
Yeah, that's what he did. What I did is I worked from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. 6 days a week. And in doing so, that repetition, I gained confidence. I didn't have any confidence, right? I didn't have any self-worth, no confidence. But showing up consistently every single day, executing and learning about the product, like you said, I believed in it. Like, if I get rejected, it's okay. You're going to reject me. I might have lost, or I would have made $4,000, but what I'm giving you as the homeowner is way more valuable than $4,000. You would have saved $100,000 over 25 years. You lost that. You don't want to work with me? No problem. Have a good day. And I'd go to the next door. But in the first year, I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very emotional person. So I would have somebody come to the door and be very disrespectful.
I'm Albert Preciado. If you like what you're watching and you want to learn from an entrepreneur that built 8 companies and makes over $30 million a year, text me at 213-277-6208 and let's make it happen.
And, cuss you out, and it would hurt me. When I first started, it would ruin my day. I would have to quit. I'd have to go home.
Yeah.
And I would be so pissed off. And now, obviously, if somebody says something, I just leave it at the door and no problem. Cool, man. Have a nice day. And just move on to the next person. But it takes a lot of effort and practice and time if you guys are an introvert to overcome it. It's not easy.
Yeah. But what you said, I don't know if you caught it, but what you said on how you talk to the client and how you tell them, hey, you know what? I'm not here to sell you. I'm here to go over your options and you're being very informative. So you're giving them the information and you're telling them, hey, I'm not here to sell you. So that is, you are selling without even selling, because that's a way to close people. When you for example, you have a wife, right?
Girlfriend.
Okay. So, I mean, does your girlfriend ever get a bit difficult with you on certain things?
Imagine everybody's does.
Let's just say, do you like sports?
Not really.
No? Well, what do you like to do that your girlfriend doesn't like to do?
Work too much.
All right. So If you tell your girlfriend, hey, you know what? I'm not going to see you this week. I'm super busy and I'm going to work 16, 17 hours and I'm not going to see you this week. She's going to take it differently than if you tell her, hey, babe, I'm going to be, so if you're like, hey, babe, do you mind if I work very, very hard this week? I have a surprise for you. I have a lot of opportunities, but it all depends on this week. Do you mind if this week, I just focus on work and then next week I'm going to have a surprise for you? She's going to take both of those very differently. Because when you kind of tell them, hey, when you give them the option, do you mind? Or I'm not here to sell you. Oh, I'm not. When you tell them that, it kind of, they back down and they don't fight back. Like there's no argument because you're giving them the option. So like the way you talk, like you're selling them, but you're being very smooth. You're like kind of telling them, hey, you know what? I'm not here to sell you, but I'm going to give you this information. You decide what's best for you. Da 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 da. And so there's different ways of selling. Now, where did you learn how to communicate with a customer? Did you read books, or was it just practice that made you better?
Yeah, I mean, I read,
How to Win and Influence Friends.
Yeah, sell or be sold.
Oh yeah.
I've read book. I would say though, honestly, the most is just practice. It's the issue in the solar industry. The big issue is that a lot of these companies train their people that you need to close it the first day.
Yeah.
You need to get them to run the credit. You need to get them to sign the contract. And I've come across homeowners hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Yeah, we canceled with them. We signed up, but the guy was very pushy. He made us feel uncomfortable. He wouldn't leave. So we just signed up because he was very pushy. But then we canceled 2 days later.
Yeah, that's where I was going. So like there's high pressure, aggressive selling. And that usually ends up in a cancellation later or a chargeback.
Yep. So and probably I would say it's probably because I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I've never liked that. I hate, you just walk into a furniture store or a car lot and dry humping your leg. I'm a very low pressure person. I'd probably say 70% of my deals I close a week later. And I tell them, I say, hey, listen, we have the best reviews in California. We have the best partnerships. I make $1 million a year. I'm not here to tell you need to sign something today. Yeah. I just want to give you the information. Think about it. Sometimes they sign up, that day. Sometimes I don't hear from them again.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt my feelings because I'm consistently finding new people to help.
Yeah.
The big problem is with the inconsistency, and you're broke and you're hurting and you don't have money. So you go into an appointment or a close, and you heard of the commission breath. So they're very, very uncomfortable with the presentation, the salesperson, because they haven't been consistent and they really need that money. So they're very pushy. They're not actively listening to the customer. They're just thinking about, I need to get this deal. I need to get this deal. And so, kind of consistency solves all issues in sales if you're just consistent.
So a few things before we wrap up. So when you saw me on the live, what convinced you? Like when I was trying to close you, and I'm like, hey, you know what? We got this going on. It's a business mastermind, and like what made you be like, you know what? Okay, I'll do it. Was I the aggressive type? Did I ask you questions? Like how were you convinced? Just curious.
So I would say that I am what's called a laydown, right? You said, hey, give me this amount of money. You sent me the link and I signed it. You didn't really have to convince me. I actually got sick. I was in and out of the ER. So I tried to cancel on you. But your consistency on being on podcasts, that's how I found you on Bradley's podcast the first time. And then recently the second time. but I'm putting more of an effort into paying people that are way further along than I am, so that I don't have to take as long or make the mistakes that you made. So that's the biggest thing I'd recommend to anybody. If you're starting anything, or if you're in something and you're winning, don't go buy a $9,000 gold chain.
Yeah.
Take some of that money. You should take most of it, all of it, and reinvest it in yourself by getting mentored or coached by someone like you, so that you could just win faster.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I'm pretty excited. What is it? Couple weeks?
About a week and a half.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like just to add to that a little bit, and then I want to end it with one last question I have for you about your business when you started. But like what I did is I first, like I've invested so much money into self-improvement, about $8 million in my lifetime. So people say, I don't believe him, this and that. I mean, 1 year alone, I spent well over $1 million. And how did I do that? Like, well, Driven 5, I think it was Driven 5. We spent over $1 million putting the event together. So now with the event, what I do is when I have, let's say I'm going to have Patrick Bet-David, right? So when I have Patrick Bet-David, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have you speak at the event. I'm going to have you be part of a lunch. I'm also going to have you do an Instagram live with me. I'm also going to get a one-on-one mentorship session. So you're going to be mentoring me one-on-one. And then we're also going to do a podcast. What people don't realize is when you do a podcast, it's like a mentorship session, because I'm interviewing them and I'm asking them questions that I want to know. So that for me is when I'm paying $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 for a speaker with all that stuff. That's self-improvement. That's better than any book or any podcast you listen to or audiobook, because it's one-on-one. You create the relationship. And long story short, Patrick, I've known him for over a decade, and I hired him as my first mentor, one of my first mentors. And I learned a lot from the one-on-one experience, and it included lunch, dinner, going to his house. So it was like a slam dunk deal. But every single person that I've hired for Driven events, I always include, hey, I'm going to meet you one-on-one mentorship session plus a podcast. So when you do a podcast with David Goggins, like you know who David Goggins is, right? He's huge. So I went to his apartment in New York. This was 2019. So, you know, I paid him and I got him at a discount. Now he charges way more, but I paid him back then because I knew he was coming up. He had 1 million followers. So it's an apartment in New York, tiny apartment. He was barely coming up. And I went there and I spent like half a day with him. Him and his girl was there. And I took my wife, I had my daughter, and I flew in. And I got to spend that one-on-one time with him. So I've done that over and over and over and over again. And it just adds up. Grant Cardone alone, I paid him over $500,000. Now, having said that, when you see Patrick Bet-David, and many of you know who Patrick Bet-David is. He's one of the smartest business people that I've ever met. He has a real business. He sold it actually for about $250 million a few years ago. And the reason why I feel Patrick is so successful and smart is because how many podcasts has he done? He has a podcast and he's interviewed a lot of different types of people, from mobsters to political people, to celebrities, to billionaires, entrepreneurs. So you think about all those questions that he's asking. He's probably done thousands and thousands of interviews. He's learning and he's getting smarter and smarter and smarter. Apart from that, he reads a lot of books. He does a lot of self-improvement. And so that's the secret to get farther, like you said, farther in less time. Because you're buying time, you're buying the information so that you don't have to go out there and make the mistakes and almost go out of business. So like you did that really, really well. Now, when talk about this to end this podcast. When you started a business, you became a millionaire, right? Because before you started your business, you weren't a millionaire yet.
No.
So when you started your business, you started making more than $1 million for a year. Now, for maybe entrepreneurs that are watching this, what are the pros and cons? And would you I mean, now it's too late to go back, because now you have a business and you employ a lot of people, and it's kind of like when I started growing the business and they started hiring a bunch of people. Now you can't even quit if you want to quit. It's either you make it work or you die. So like now that your business like has grown, how much more do you want to grow it? And how happy are you now versus before, when you didn't have the huge responsibility as a business owner?
Yeah, so the for me personally, more,
because you said it hasn't been easy. So I'm curious about, like, what do you mean by that?
For me, more rewarding than making money is seeing my guys purchase properties, or, getting a text message saying, hey, Anthony, you completely changed my life. But yeah, it's not easy, because as men, we have the responsibility of our own family. But then when you're employing people, you're responsible for their success. You kind of are steering the direction of the ship. And, that's why last year was so hard with all the installation companies going bankrupt. I felt personally responsible for, some of my guys lost money as well because of the partnerships that I selected. So it's not entrepreneurship is definitely not for everybody. Some people are going to be able to work for you, and make, $1 million a year with you. So the hard thing is just navigating the decisions that you're making and having the broad perspective of like, hey, is this what's going to be best for the people that are working with my company? And that just comes with time, knowing, if you should trust working with a new company or a new person. You get better at, I would say, reading people's intention, if they really care about you or if they're just looking for a quick paycheck. So yeah, man.
Yeah, well, Anthony, I'm very excited about your future. Like, you have what I like companies that are like just getting started, because there's so much potential for people that want to be part of your company, because they're going to help you grow. You're going to grow together, and who knows, maybe they I don't know if you believe in equity, but maybe one day, like, some of those people can end up being co-owners or have some ownership, some sort of type of ownership, and you grow bigger, as opposed to like when everybody wants to start their own business and do it from scratch. You already started it, and it's a startup, 3 years in business. So the potential is very, very high. So if anybody here is watching this and they're like, hey, you know what? I want to be part of Anthony's company. I want to be under his wing. I want to join. Where can people find you, and how can they reach out?
So my Instagram is outworkingyou, out_working_you. So if you're in California, we could definitely get you onboarded, get you access, and get you the right training and tools to get started. But it's definitely a lot of effort that people have to put in.
Yeah.
So
cool. So do you have a phone number you want to put down, or I'll put all your information below regardless?
Yeah. Instagram's probably the best way. I get too many spam calls.
Yeah. So send him a DM. Outworking you right there. Awesome, Anthony.
Thank you.